Hello everybody, it's Fufu here, and today I am doing a much requested experiment. This experiment I think I've talked to a few people about, and I do know the answer to this one already, but I think it's really important because I'm still getting questions about it. I think it's important that I do cover it in this series because, I mean, everyone's asked this question. It's a really good question, and it would be a really cool mechanic if it did work. So we'll test if it works today. And what that is using corrosion in combination with toxic spikes. Toxic spikes are an entry hazard, which means when you switch in, when you've used toxic spikes, the opponent will have all their Pokemon poisoned, which is great, as long as they touch the ground. So any grounded Pokemon that switch in on toxic spikes get poisoned. And unfortunately, the only Pokemon that has corrosion is Salazzle, and this means that you can poison types and steel types. So maybe if you combine the ability with corrosion with the move toxic spikes, you'll be able to have an entry hazard that also poisons steel and poison types. So let's work this out. So what I'm going to do first is just go for some nasty plots with my Salazzle because it doesn't do anything. I've actually got a skill swap Kecleon, which is really cool. And we're going to skill swap the Salazzle first turn to get the corrosion so that I can then skill swap it onto my toxic spiker. So then what I'm going to do is just go for some moves with my other things. So I've got a really cool Omanyte and also a Golisopod that are going to set up all the entry hazards. So that's cool. Golisopod gets spikes, Omanyte gets literally all the entry hazards aside from Sticky Web, which is awesome. So Kecleon becomes a psychic type, uses skill swap, and then loses the protein ability, so it is now forever a psychic type unless it gets the protein ability back, which I don't think it will in this match. So Golisopod's setting up normal spikes, and my Omanyte's just going to go for a Scald, which doesn't do too well. That did quite a bit of damage actually. Kecleon has a lot of special bulk. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, again, just go for a nasty plot with my Salazzle. And then what we're going to do is go for a skill swap onto my Omanyte because my Omanyte has the toxic spikes. So I'll go for some toxic spikes now because the skill swap from Kecleon will go first before I set up my toxic spikes. And then I will go for some more spikes with my Golisopod. So then I will see next turn if I switch out. Oh, Salazzle has protein now. That's pretty cool. So we've got protein and Salazzle going on. That could be quite interesting actually. And it would kind of make sense because it's also a lizard and it's like the lizardy reptilian Pokemon that get the protein ability. That would be cool to see. Anyway, so we now see Omanyte has got the corrosion ability. Golisopod's going to go for some more spikes, and now we are going to see the Omanyte go for some toxic spikes. Omanyte is such a cool Pokemon. I love the little fossil. So we've got the toxic spikes up on the other side of the field. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch out my Salazzle for my Pokemon in the back. So the Pokemon in the back is actually an Aegislash. Aegislash is obviously Steel type, so it should be immune to this poison. And with my Kecleon, I'm just going to go for a Recover because it doesn't do anything. And then with these guys, I may as well set up more Toxic Spikes and more Spikes and just get all the entry hazards up. So let's see how this works. We're going to switch out this Salazzle. Does the corrosion ability on Omanyte mean that Twitch Mod now gets poisoned? We see the spikes go off. Do we see the toxic spikes? No, we don't. That is the kicker. No, we do not see corrosion toxic spikes working. That means that it doesn't matter who lays up toxic spikes, you will never be able to poison steel or poison types with toxic spikes. There's one thing I'm just going to check because obviously that was the steel type. I'm going to switch back into my Salazzle just to make sure that Salazzle can mop up those toxic spikes, because poison types, when they switch in on toxic spikes, they absorb them and the toxic spikes disappear. And so I'm going to just check that, and we will go from there. Okay, so let's see if Salazzle can remove those toxic spikes. That'll mean that obviously this corrosion toxic spikes just aren't a thing, and the corrosion ability will not affect toxic spikes. So there's the spikes, and yeah, the poison spikes are removed. So that means that Corrosion does not work with toxic spikes, which I think is a real shame. I think it's obviously going to be quite hard, it probably is quite hard to program or implement, but it would be a really nice thing if Salazzle got toxic spikes, you could then almost guarantee yourself to poison the entire enemy team, because, or at least their rapid spinner, because obviously the poison types wouldn't be able to absorb the toxic spikes, they would get poisoned instead, which would be amazing. And that would be such a cool little thing that Salazzle would be able to help out with, but unfortunately that's not the case. I guess because it's an entry hazard and not inflicting the status directly, that's why it happens that way. I know a lot of people know about this already, but as I say, I thought it was just important to do this because I get so many questions about it. So that's going to be all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. All that's left to be said is I've been foofootoo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.